I'm Brownfield anchor reporter Meghan Grebner, and you're watching NUE Goals for NUE Ag, a content partnership with Verdesian on Brownfield. Today, we're having a conversation about water quality. Joining us is Dave Schwartz, Vice President for Strategic Regional Accounts for Verdesian. Hello.
Good morning, Meghan.
It has been a pretty tough growing season for farmers across the country. Your farmers are no exception. Can you kind of give us, just as we get started today, talk a little bit about conditions right now as we're seeing them here in late June?
Yeah, we're again, for about the fourth year in a row, it's the haves and have-nots. We've got some areas that are extremely drought prone, and it's really starting to show up. We're having yield loss occur already in some areas. Other areas have caught some little rains. We're hanging on for the next rain. We're in a very dire straits situation out here in the Midwest. A lot of the major corn growing regions are hanging on, but we can't keep this up very much longer.
This is an interesting kind of perspective as we get into our conversation. And this is probably a really elemental type question, but what's the difference between, in your mind, water quantity and water quality, and the importance between both in farming?
Well, this year's a pretty good example about water quantity. We're used to getting some larger rains, 2 to 3 inch rains during the growing season. And that just doesn't seem to be occurring very much on a wide scale like it has in the past. So water quantity, we have certain parts of the country that are just really short water, and it's starting to affect the wells. We drink the water that goes through this Midwest. I mean, our wells are all right out here amongst our farm fields. And so we've got to have subsoil moisture to build up to supply the water quantity, especially our irrigation fellow farmers, mainly in Nebraska, Kansas. Then you look at here in Iowa, not so much of an irrigation state, but when we're short of water, that's definitely, we've got to rely on rainfall for our water. So water quantity it's not a big issue right now, but we would like it to be more of an issue. Where water quality, which is where I've spent a lot of my time, obviously, when you have major agricultural areas that apply lots of nitrogen-based fertilizers, phosphorus fertilizers, and then we look at having huge rain events, that's the beginning of a lot of the water quality issues. So water quantity has a big play in water quality when it comes to those issues. And that's what we've been battling more here in the Midwest, is how to slow down the speed of the water leaving the farm. And that's where a lot of our practices that we've been putting in place have really come in.
And we're going to talk about some of those and some of those initiatives as we continue our conversation today. Speaking of conversations, how has the conversation around water quality changed in the past decade or so?
Well, a lot. And a lot to the positive. 10 years ago is when we started our initiatives here in Iowa. We just celebrated our 10th anniversary of celebration of the nutrient reduction strategy. Iowa was one of the leading states to adopt a nutrient reduction strategy based on the evidence coming out of the hypoxia zone. And we knew that we were one of the leading states that needed to address that right away. And we did. Our state officials have done an excellent job of putting together the plans. I think we've got one of the most comprehensive plans in the nation for water quality. And so we've got many organizations that have been formed, a lot of public-private partnerships, got NRCS, we've got Iowa State University, we've got state government, Iowa Ag and Water, all have got together and formed organizations, working groups, and have applied for millions of dollars of federal grants that we have received. And I'm happy to report we've got a lot more coming. And we've got working groups on the ground that are putting these practices into play. And so water quality, as far as in the normal conversations, has went from 0 to 100. It's a big deal.
Dave, you can tell you're passionate about the subject and it's something you're very concerned about. And when you look at that, talk to me a little bit about your involvement with those and how you became so passionate about this.
Well, it all starts out, I am a farmer. I have a farm in one of the critical watersheds, the Raccoon River watershed here in west central Iowa. I have those rivers flowing through our farms, and I've seen what happens when you don't manage things well, when we do have flooding events. We've seen a lot of high nitrate levels come through the Des Moines waterworks system that kind of got things kicked off about 8-10 years ago when they sued the water conservation districts in Northwest Iowa on this Raccoon River basin. And that really got a lot of our organizations formed, and we knew that we had to provide answers. And it's been a continuous work in progress. Are we there yet? No, we're not there yet. A lot of work to be done, but in 10 years, we have come a tremendously long way of educating and getting people and hands on the ground and people involved. And we've made some real progress, but there's a lot of progress to be made yet. We've done really well on phosphorus. We're at 98% of our nutrient reduction strategy goal right now in Iowa on phosphorus, which is we're very proud of. But on nitrogen, that one remains to be the wild card. It's so hard to manage. It's so hard to be able to know exactly how fast nitrogen is breaking down in the soil, how our applications of nitrogen. We've done a lot of work on changing the retailers' attitudes. And I'm very proud of the work we've done in getting absolute split applied nitrogen. That is the practice now. It was not 10 years ago. We've got nitrogen rates cut back, and we're putting them on in 3, sometimes 4 different applications across the growing season. That really cuts down on the loss. And then we're stabilizing. The amount of stabilizers that go on nitrogen levels have went up about 4-fold. And so that's some things that I can tell you. There's lots more things I could tell you that we're doing, but those are the basic things that have started and are way different than 10 years ago.
I would assume ag technologies have played a critical role in meeting some of these goals. What are some of those that you discuss with farmers and your customers when it comes to improving water quality?
So one of the things is not just going out and blanket applying nitrogen. Now we've got the ability to test soils and be able to tell there's certain soils that cannot handle high rates of nitrogen. So we look at those on soil tests, and now we've got those plugged into our application equipment. So when they go over an area where the soils are lighter, for example, we apply less units of nitrogen because that soil just can't handle that amount. That's a big one there. And the other thing is that we have got Iowa State really involved in this movement. They have been working hand in hand with our organizations. For example, we've got a new program through Iowa State this year. I'm participating on my farms where we're putting out nitrogen reduction plots, where we're putting 0 to 250 pounds of nitrogen across an area of a field, and we're monitoring the yield results from that. And then there's over 400 of them across the state of Iowa, and we're going to take that information and start recalibrating Iowa State's nitrogen recommendations, especially for like top dressing, side dressing. So we are getting the right rates on the right soil types.
Dave, you talked about that public-private partnership. How critical has that been in making the advancements that you guys have been making in your state and really across the country in reducing runoff and implementing these types of technologies? Well, it starts at the top. We've got a Secretary of Agriculture in Iowa, Mr. Mike Nag, who has just been absolute pushing
every organization to get behind this. And we have been able to get a lot of companies, private companies, a lot of NRCS, universities. We've got that whole partnership sitting at the table, interested parties. And it's a large group now. And we've got them broken down into working groups. So the expertise is in the right committees. And so that's big. That took several years to get that all put together. But now we're in these working groups applying for specific grants for those individual working groups, just like ag drainage. That's a working group we've got. There's so much involved in ag drainage that can rectify water quality problems. The other one is cover crops. We've got a huge cover crop working group, and that has increased our cover crops in the state. We had merely a few thousand acres back 10 years ago. We're over 3 million acres now, and that number should exponentially grow a lot in the next 5 to 10 years. So those are examples where we've got government, private business, we've got environmental companies all working together to solve these problems. And it's been really gratifying.
Dave, this has been a fascinating conversation, and learning about the initiatives and the work that you're doing in Iowa is wonderful. If farmers want to learn more information about water quality initiatives, where's the best place for them to go?
You know, there's a lot of places they can go, but Iowa Ag Water Alliance is one of the organizations that Verdesian is a member of. They're the working group that has put the government and the universities and the private business all together, headed up by a man named Sean McMahon, but it's IAWA.com, Iowa Agriculture Water Alliance. That's one of the main ones. The other one is a working group of retailers and companies like Verdesian, and that is ACWA, Agriculture's Clean Water Alliance.com. So those are the two groups that we heavily support, and they're getting a lot done.
Dave, thank you so much for your time today. And we'll make sure we get those groups linked in the comments. Any final thoughts before we let you go today?
I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is such a huge issue out here in the Midwest. And I just want everybody that can get access to information to know that there's a lot being done. There's a lot more to do, but probably one of the most important things is that your agriculture retailers are very aware of this, and they're doing everything they can and joining organizations to help rectify this.
Dave, thank you again so much for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
I'm Meghan Grebner, and you've been watching NUE Goals for NUE Ag, a content partnership with Verdesian on Brownfield. Thank you for tuning in to our YouTube channel. For all the latest in ag news, markets, and weather, and for more great video content, go to brownfieldagnews.com.